Hello everyone, my name is Michael and welcome back to Sovereign Gaming. So I'm taking us back into SimCity and today we're going to be doing quite a huge lot build and it is going to be the Shipyards. So the Shipyards is essentially a huge focal point of the industrial port neighborhood. In fact, it is probably the gem and the reason for it even being there, I would say. So I am very excited to get started on that. And like I mentioned before, it is a community lot. It is the largest lot size that there is, and I've got them butt right up against the cranes there. So I am super excited about this build. I think it actually turns out extremely well. For me anyways. Again, I'm not perfect with these builds and I'm definitely not I'm not a talented lot builder, let's just say. I just get the job done, I convey what I need to convey, and then I keep it moving. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way that this port build turned out, and it is quite a huge endeavor and a huge undertaking, and I'm very excited to actually get to show it off to you guys. Like I have mentioned before, with the SimCity World Build series, I really want the world to actually be functional in the game when I eventually do export it and actually upload it onto wherever I need to upload it to, I guess. I don't know if the exchange still works these days. But anyways, the most important part about this kind of a lot is that it needs to be able to house different houseboats. And so they just need a place to dock. And I remember before when I was trying to create a port way back when in one of my previous worlds that the dock, I guess the anchors there, or the anvils or whatever you hook up the houseboat to, they were kind of difficult to work with. So that's where I decided to start, that's where I decided to start in this build, is to tackle the hard part first, which is the function and the reason for Sims to even visit it if they are even using houseboats in this game, or in this save, I suppose. So yeah, I decided to really make it quite functional in terms of that. I didn't want the docks too wide. And part of my plan here was to really have it mirrored in the military base lot that will be the next lot build episode that is upcoming. So that was another reason why I had laid out the docks the way that I had them lay out, is because it needed to make sense with the docks in the lot just right next to it. You'll see by the end of the next episode what I mean by that and how it kind of looks on screen and all that. But yeah, the docks are the focal point, but if they're not functioning, then what's the point of me even building the lot? I'm not a huge fan of building lots for the sake of building lots. I need to have it to function or to be able to contribute some sort of a purpose to the SimCity world. And so yeah, that it was my thoughts behind the actual boardwalk or dock section of this build. The next most important aspect, in my opinion, of this dock build, of this shipyards build, is really the receiving area for the different container crates. So as I'm outlining here, like, I have used that obnoxious tile that I like to use to protect paint and whatnot. But the crates here are all going to be colored differently, just like you would see in a normal industrial working port. So again, I did kind of have to go on a little bit of a journey in terms of discovering like what kind of colors I wanted and what kind of wallpaper I suppose best suited each of these. And the reason why this is such an important part of the shipyards build is that it also serves as a loading dock and essentially the entrance and exit of it. So there has to be like an inflow of trucks, and trucks also have to theoretically be able to turn around. And so I ended up actually designing a couple of one-way arrows to kind of show what that traffic directionality is. Now, this part of the build is something that I might have to revisit at a later date, only because it is not completely even, and I think I could have probably spaced it out a little more evenly or found a better solution there. But I kind of got lazy at the end of it. Well, what I consider to be a little lazy. And I just kind of left it as it was when it stands. So it is slightly a little uneven from the entrance and exit and how that works. But in my opinion, I actually like it the way it is. So I might just stick with it at the end of the day. But we'll see when I actually have access to this world in the game. Yeah, this is one of the last actual finished builds that I'll be able to show you guys. Don't worry, the military base does get finished up, and that'll be the next upcoming episode, but because I did that thing where I downloaded some Sims 3 store content, the edit in-game mode just no longer wants to function. I guess God had other plans or something. I'm just kidding. I did decide to carry over the caution flooring, I suppose, from the sanitation or the water treatment plant and from the cement factories. So again, it continues off of that theme. Like, you know, you're in an industrial area when you've got your floors painted a certain way or your walls are painted a certain way to depict warnings or caution or something of the sort. So I really wanted to convey that here, especially in the shipyards, and I actually continue it throughout the actual building itself. And I even use different colors as well, which is always fun. So the different colors are going to mean different things, and I'll explain what those different colors will mean later on in this video when we actually come across them. But yeah, you can see that the container ports, the container crates here are actually starting to shape up, and it's actually legitimately starting to look like a real container port. And you know, I was really enjoying it. I was really looking at it from all angles just to see if it all makes sense. I definitely didn't want it to be straight up and down. I wanted it to be a little mismatched, so there are different levels of the container ports there, and there's even one in the middle that's set up for inspection. So there's a whole story there that's being told that I felt was necessary, because these container ports do get inspected, and so when you have the one that gets selected randomly to get inspected, I wanted to kind of show it in the story that I am telling here. Again, at this point in the build, I'm really just kind of showing that you need to have security clearance in order to get through. I think it's great that the port area in of itself has that security gate with beside the parking lot, against the retaining wall off the lot, just north of the lot really. And I think that it really just speaks to reality that you don't just have access to all of the lots in there. You have to clear security with the port authorities, I assume, at the entrance into the port neighborhood. But then each lot and each place of business has their own set of security protocols that you also have to pass through as well. So I really wanted to emulate that, and to really show that this is a hard area to actually get into. From a realistic perspective. Of course, in the game, the Sims are just going to drive everywhere without any kind of consideration. They don't care about security. They're security risks in of themselves. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show here and reflect that reality. And again, I'm using those train barriers, or train traffic barriers, I suppose, and I feel like this is a common theme that is found throughout the port that actually adds a lot of realism into each of these lots. So I'm very happy to actually add these into the build, and they're quite easy to make as well. They're just like a 2x3, a desk, a computer, maybe some of those files on the desk, and then a couple of lights here and there. So it's not like it's a heavy lift on my end. But this entire lot, though, is a heavy lift in of itself in terms of the creative and all that jazz. And at one point I do kind of run out of ideas, and I will point that out when I get there, because I actually think that what I ended up doing was both serving for my laziness needs and also effective in emulating a proper warehouse. Did struggle with the arrows for a little bit there, as you guys saw, and then the easiest, most simple solution came to mind, and that was just to use floor tiles. I kind of feel stupid that I never thought of that to begin with, but I guess that just meant that I was low on the creative juices. Oh, by the way, if you do notice cheat codes being re-entered time and time after again, it just really signifies that I am saving the lot and actually exiting the Create a World program. I have a lot of trust issues when it comes to the Create a World program in of itself. Like, I always think that it's going to crash on me at any moment because I've had so many experiences in the past where it actually has. And so what I've done is I've just done my diligence in terms of going off screen, saving, exiting the program, rebooting it back up. And, you know, in comparison to previous computers that I have played The Sims on, this computer that I'm using now hasn't felt any different from the actual game, except for when I actually load up the game. So yeah, Create a World feels the same for me on this computer as it did for some of my older computers, and I don't think it's the fault at my new computer because this thing is a beast, and yeah, it has certainly it certainly handles a lot of video game stuff that's thrown at it, and yeah, so I am actually determining that the common denominator is not necessarily the computer, but actually the Create a World program itself in terms of how smooth it's running and all of that. I even do run into new glitches, and I think I'll show it in the next Create a World episode that's upcoming while using Create a World, and it just kind of changes things a little bit. Actually, no, that's going to be the episode after. Anyways, whenever I come across a new glitch, I'll just kind of show you guys what I did and how I solved it, if I even did solve it. A lot of the times, at the end of the day, like, I really don't mess around too much with Create a World since I have such trust issues with it. Like, I just want to be able to, at this point, build the world, export it into the game, start building the lots, and just keeping it as simple as possible in terms of that, and of course making it beautiful and looking nice and everything. But yeah, I don't want to be fudging around too much with like the coding or even when it comes to effects. Like, I'm going to be very careful about those effects because you can go really, really intense with it. I don't know how real Create a World users actually create their worlds that look so detailed and so beautiful, because it just baffles me, like, how their Create a World doesn't continue to crash on them. Anyways, I kind of went off on a tangent there. I allowed the warehouse portion of the build to really be informed by both the shipping and receiving part of the build and also by the docks themselves. So it's kind of like this interesting relationship that it has between like communicating what is actually being shipped and delivered or imported and exported versus what kind of water vehicles are pulling into the port. So that was really how the shape came to be. I also wanted there to be a little tiny bit of parking as well within the warehouse. And I end up using a specific brick for the warehouse as well. The way that I see it is that when it comes to historical warehouses and even in older warehouse districts and cities across the world, sometimes they'll be pigeonholed into using a specific brick because it was the only one available at the time when the city or the urban area was first founded. And so I also wanted to convey that with the exterior of the warehouse here as well. I really wanted to tell that story of there being an older brick that was used throughout. I do use the brick for other for other buildings, if I do remember correctly. I might be remembering it wrong, but I'm very thankful that I actually did end up saving the style in the editing game mode before it crapped out on me. So so there's that. Like, if I haven't used it in other buildings, then I will be using it in other buildings. I think that the brick would look nice on apartment buildings or other mid-rise structures as well, especially those that are found like near Old Town or something that has more of an older feel to it. So yeah, that was a story really behind the brick, the shape, and how it's going. And I also wanted to really depict that a semi-truck could theoretically drop off goods here, which is why we have those raised garages. Unfortunately, like, what ends up happening with the warehouse is it actually ends up just being more of a decorative piece than anything else. Like, it connects you to the docks and to the shipping and receiving area from the container port and all that, but the actual function of the warehouse itself kind of remains to be seen. I put a couple of skill gain objects in there, like the workbench from Ambitions. I think I added in something else as well, but that doesn't exactly sound right to me. Yeah, when it comes to the warehouse, I just really wanted to depict it as a place where you are obviously storing different kinds of materials and different kinds of things. And yeah, like, if you have any ideas on like what other functions I can add into it, feel free to leave a message in the comments. I do add like some sort of an HR area. Well, yeah, an HR big boss office, and there's also some employee facilities as well that can be used. So it gets filled out, but the functions are certainly all over the place when it comes to the warehouse, if that makes any sense. As I mentioned in previous builds, parking is a significant part of infrastructure, whether it's in the lot or in the city. And here I am actually just, I am interpreting it as something being a little more smaller scale, just because you have a parking lot just down the road, and actually the gap in between the road and the other road ends up becoming a parking lot, or at least it does in the upcoming Create a World episode. So apologies for the spoilers there. Anyways, what's great about this parking lot is, again, I'm using those university parking lot assets, which helps to fill it out, but there is also a functional reason for it as well. So besides the simple fact that your Sims need a place to park, otherwise they're just carrying around their car in their pocket, the other functional part here is that if you overload a lot with a lot of empty parking spaces, then those parking spaces get filled up with cars that eventually become abandoned in a weird way. So it's one of those magics of actually, it's one of those wonders of The Sims 3, I suppose. But I wanted to prevent that this go around, because I did add in a lot of parking in another iteration of SimCity way back in the day, and I just found that there were so many abandoned cars just filling up these spaces, or random cars, that I just, I wanted to avoid it, but I also wanted to convey that parking is available, or at least somewhat available, at least in SimCity. Looking back at the warehouse, I do think it does fit in quite well in the area. It makes absolutely perfect sense that for an industrial port there would be quite a few warehouses, which is why I eventually attempt to build a film studio lot. But that's for a future episode. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to kind of point this out is that on a 64 by 64 lot, like, even though I placed most of the lot in the water, or at least a good chunk of it in the water, by using foundations and also docks, I was able to still create a lot of buildable area on it. And in a 64 by 64 lot, there's a lot of space to be used, even though it kind of doesn't look like it in in this game at least, or at least from my opinion, it doesn't really look like there was a lot of space to work with, but this was a 64 by 64 lot if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure that I am. And yeah, I was able to really convey three really strong points within this lot, being the shipping and receiving part, the actual functional dock part, and then the warehouse in of itself. For the windows and doors, I wanted to give it that classic brick warehouse kind of look. I like the bigger windows on those, and in fact I'm not even too sure if that's even a classic look per se, but I preferred the bigger windows. Fitting this warehouse with the bigger windows, to me it kind of suggests that this building could be renovated into a set of apartments or something, but the idea here was really just to kind of beckon back to that older style warehouse, that brick warehouse, as opposed to a new warehouse. I think that throughout the rest of SimCity, there will be lots of opportunities to really add in glass modern architecture, of which I have I don't hate on it for sure. I actually kind of enjoy it when it's done right, but that's but I'm just kind of getting off on a tangent there. Anyways, with the surrounding areas, like, because it is still that rustic industrial port, I really wanted to show that there was a little bit more history to it, a little more interest and intrigue into the area that goes beyond just beyond the water treatment plant and beyond the abandoned cement shoe factory. And with this brick warehouse, I kind of feel like I was really able to do that, especially after the windows and doors all go in. Like, it just looks fantastic as a structural piece, in my opinion. Again, I'm not the best when it comes to creating and to building. I really put myself at the middle of the pack when it comes to that kind of thing. So that's exactly how I feel about the warehouse and how it's shaping up at the moment. And now that we are actually inside the warehouse, I kind of get a little lost here and there, but but I certainly get it together at the end there. Inside the shipyard warehouse itself, I really wanted to offer employees a lot of really great amenities to actually use. So you'll see me go around making some bathrooms that you can change in, and I would assume that there would be quite a bit of employees working here as well, because you not only have all the shipping and handling folks, but you would also have dock workers and warehouse workers. So yeah, a lot of people would be in this lot, theoretically speaking. So yeah, amenities include a staff area. There's also some laundry that you guys will see there, and yeah, this was certainly an enjoyable part of the build, and this was something that I felt was very needed, just considering the volume of people that would theoretically be in this area working day to day. The other interior parts of the warehouse were kind of left open, like especially in the shipping and receiving area. Like, I really wanted to depict that it was very much a shipping and receiving area, so you need this space to actually function and move in, like space for forklifts or space for just heavy objects just needing a place to kind of sit and hang out. So that was the idea behind a lot of some of the interior choices here. And this is also where the fast lane stuff comes in handy in terms of decor, because they have a lot of great things there. Same with the ambitions debug stuff. Some of that is really great to use, and it really makes a strong appearance here as well. And because this is a working port, a working area, an industrial area, and all of the worker facilities are just kind of housed separately there, I also felt that it was very important to actually communicate different areas with the lighting itself. So much like I've explained before in some of the previous builds within the port area, I really feel like it's very important to communicate with light and color within these industrial areas. So you'll see certain things like you'll see me just change a color on a wall light, for example, to red to indicate that you are entering into a entering into a work zone and there are dangerous workplaces involved, or sorry, work situations. There are hazards. That was the word I was looking for, hazards. There are hazards in the workplace and you need to keep your eye out. So I chose to communicate with that with lighting because there aren't a whole lot of options that communicate that exactly, especially in Simlish and all that. So that was really some of my thought process there. I also go ahead and I add in a big office boss. Like if you're called into that office, it's not going to be a good time. You're either getting promoted or you're getting fired kind of thing. So I really imagine like some guy with a big cigarette or something just kind of sitting up there and looking over all of his dock worker employees. Maybe that's one of the maybe that could be a storyline that Alto, whatever his name is, the husband from the Alto family takes on, because if I remember correctly, he's like a criminal overlord, so this wouldn't be such a this wouldn't be such a stretch in that case. But yeah, that was kind of the energy and the feel I was going for in the upstairs office, is that you don't want to be there. You only want to be there on your first day when you're getting onboarded and meeting the boss, and you definitely don't want to be called up there either. So has that intimidation factor all set up in there as well. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of struggled with some of the placement of objects and room designs for the upstairs part of the warehouse. I just kind of ran out of ideas at this point in the game, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wanted to get it over with. But I did have a really cool idea, and that was the storage room attached to the landing on the upstairs there. And that storage room, the idea behind it is just basically that it's a bunch of uniforms and stationery, office supplies. So it's a big storage room just kind of filled with all of those things just stuck in crates. Like it was just a space that they had to fill up. So yeah, all of the admin work would be found there. Well, I guess not the admin work, but all the admin supplies would certainly be found there. Like if you needed an extra file cabinet for whatever reason, it could probably be found there. It's one of those disorganized storage rooms that just has a whole collection of everything in it. And because it was kind of offset from the rest of the warehouse, it didn't really warrant special clearance or that red light indicating that you are entering into a hazardous workplace. Workers could just go up there, grab what they need, and then kind of leave if they need to. And it also connects to the rest of the warehouse upper floor as well. So that was kind of the idea behind that idea there, with the storage room on just located beside the landing of the upstairs from the cafeteria. I also feel like because this is a warehouse and it's pretty much serving the container port at this point, that there would be a lot of walkways and you could look down to the ground level, I suppose. So the concept on the second floor is really just kind of based around that. Like you can easily see down to the first floor, and it allows for higher ceilings so that you can receive nearly anything of any height. That was the idea anyways behind it, and behind what those walkways really represent. So you might have somebody like on one of those gangways adjusting a hook that is needed to pull a crate off a off a truck, for example. So listen, I don't know how these things work exactly, but that was sort of where my imagination was at the time. So feel free to allow me some creative liberties there if you'd like. Or if you know how those kind of shipping and receiving things are actually done, you can always just drop a comment and let me know. Another interesting thing that I wanted to point out is that eventually you'll see a couple of random or seemingly random desks on there. Now, something that I thought would be kind of interesting is just creating a little bit of a work area up there. And in this case, this work area depicts of a, quote unquote, sewing shop or a seamstress warehouse, a seamstress workshop, I suppose, that has retired and has been put out of commission, and now all that's left is really all the desks. Truth be told, I actually I forgot that we don't have sewing machines in The Sims 3. I was getting that confused with the Sims 2's free time expansion pack, but that is neither here nor there because now those seamstresses are absolutely retired. And all they've left now is these desks that people can work at. I imagine that like nowadays in this warehouse, for the purposes of storytelling, those warehouses would really be used for I guess any kind of administrative uses. I think that your executive team would also probably live on this floor as well, because you'd have the big boss in his own private office, and then these desks could serve that. I didn't put any computers there, so maybe that might not be the most realistic since there are no computers, but I did what I did, and I really wanted to depict, more importantly, that it used to be a seamstress workshop and now it is repurposed into something else entirely now that times have changed. And yeah, that was the history that I really wanted to explain on that one. And if you looked under, if you paid a little close attention, I know that it's going by pretty fast because this was a really long build. You can see that I put in some floor warning signs there, I suppose, like the yellow stripes, except this time they were blue stripes. And what I ended up doing was I actually changed them into green stripes. And so what that does is I decided that it would depict different, it would really depict different hazard warnings that workers would have. So in this case, like the green stripes indicates that it's an open work area and it's relatively safe to kind of engage with. Whereas the red is more like an extreme hazard warning. You've got to be on the lookout. The yellow is more cautionary. And then the blue striped floors, and the blue lights as well, I actually wanted that to depict security. So you would never be in a blue area, really, and if you found yourself on a blue area, you were either standing outside of the security office or you were in the security office. So I really wanted blue to be depicted as an internal security signal. It looks like that's all the time that we have at this point. This build is considered finished at this point in time. So I just wanted to take some time and just say thank you again for watching and for enjoying these builds. It really does mean a lot for me at this time especially. And if you really appreciated what you saw here, and if you appreciated a little bit of the history, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you again, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.